Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Dales Report. And happy to be joined once again to the podcast, the CEO of Revitalist Lifestyle and Wellness, Kathryn Walker, back to the podcast. How are things?
Hey, man, going great.
It was great to see you last month, or earlier this month, obviously in Miami. Great weather down there. Had a nice little interview on the yacht. Got to meet your team, which was great. Top-notch team, to say the least. But for viewers that are watching us for the first time, talk to them about the Wonderland event and what was the big takeaway that you got based off of that event earlier this month?
You know, Wonderland, I wasn't real sure what to take from it, just seeing all that, how new it was. And so exciting to see that. It brings a lot of hope to the whole space, so to see all the intelligent minds, you could see the real-time people, the researchers, the finance guys, investors, bankers, all this coming together. Like, it's just integration that needs to happen. And if anybody was there, or they should have been there if they weren't there, right? Because you felt it. It's really a lot of hope for the future, for sure.
When you say hope, are there some examples that you could give us? Like, if you're an investor in this space or you're looking to get into this space, based on this, and this was one of the biggest psychedelic conferences ever, but when you talk about hope, where do you see this industry going moving forward?
Let's think about traditional medicine right now. One, with westernized medicine, most people don't like westernized providers. They don't like the big pharmaceutical companies, but let's look at the money that those big pharmaceutical companies have, right? So there's tons of money that those companies have. And right now what we're seeing is the transition into something new. So while the big pharmaceutical companies, they're always going to be huge stakeholders, this is giving a very new time for up and coming companies, not only in the research world, but where investors can put money in on the ground level, and these are going to be billion-dollar companies. So hope for everything.
Isn't that great? Billion-dollar companies. One thing I learned too is that heard this a lot from a lot of conversations, that insurance companies within the next 2 to 3 years are going to have an actual psychedelic division within their actual companies. If that's the case, what does that mean, I guess, for early investors and for the overall health of the industry?
I think it's something that investors are going to have to really consider here. So, believe it or not, Shad, it's only been about 100 years since we developed or created the first antibiotic, right? That's how new medicine is. So for medicine to flip something in 1 day or 2 days or 1 week, it's not going to happen that quickly because
good point.
We have to build the infrastructure. We have to create the whole new system. And look at the healthcare industry in the United States. It's one of the biggest, or it is the biggest industry in the entire country. And right now we're shifting it. So, for investors to be in this space, they really need to be in it for the long haul to understand, like Procter and Gamble didn't become who they were in one night. It took a second to get there, but they're really going to have to learn to trust the people that are the strong handles, kind of strongholds, I guess, in this space in order to understand that when they build up, their concrete slab is not going to be porous. It's going to be solid.
Yeah. Well, let's educate people on that, because when I look at this event that was taking place and you look at specific companies, who do you look for? Great leadership. Happy to announce, and this must have been great for you, you received Entrepreneur of the Year award at this conference. Big reason why is because the amount of money that you've raised. Also, you continue to build out your aggressive clinical operations model. And most importantly, you've supported thousands of people in America over the past year or so. So what did that award mean to you?
Again, it means a ton, right? Coming from a medical background, and you never do think that, the entrepreneur aspect is something that you just kind of naturally become attracted to. So seeing the impact that we have at such a young stage, it's really very rewarding with that. And then two, looking at everything again as it matures, it's going to just be interesting times for people to watch. I think a lot of people are going to make a lot of money in this world of psychedelics.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just think, again, it's just when investors, it's all about managing expectations and timeline wise. But one great thing is to notice and is Entrepreneur of the Year. If you want somebody to get things done, it's like we're now in a day and an age where more and more people are investing in companies that are led by females. And I don't want to make this, a centerpiece of it all. You're good at what you do, But what does that mean in light of that, knowing that you were recognized for an award like this?
Yeah, I think it adds a lot of validity to the space. I mean, there's a lot of awesome people, in this world of psychedelics, and I think seeing that, especially as a female, what I've learned is there's companies that are out there that circle a lot. That's one of my pet peeves.
Yep.
I don't like it when people circle. I like people to have actually a plan that has bullet points and comes to fruition and you execute, right? So right now it's a perfect time. I mean, with the psychedelics coming up, seeing all the money that's coming into it is exciting. Seeing the results is exciting. And right now, if you want to talk about investment and the right timing, we're in a global crisis. We have more people than we could ever ask for that need this, so the supply's there. It's bringing up the demand. So, the investors in this space, we need capital to come to us in order to create this. And again, you're right. It's the expectations with investors because nobody's seen anything like this in the medical field. Like, it's shifting. It needs to shift. Yeah.
Yeah. Who are, I guess, some of the people that you met with when you were in Miami? Are you looking to raise more money? And what was, I guess, some of the conversations that you had and the feedback that they liked about your model?
Yeah, I had, meetings back to back, a lot of meetings with that. I think right now, it's still new to where people are trying to figure out who are the best players in the space, who understands it the most. If you're a financial person in this space, I think it's really going to be very hard for those individuals if they're leading 100% of it, because when you work with medical providers and mental health providers, mostly they don't necessarily trust businessmen or financiers because they don't. That's kind of the way the hospitals are run right now. And those are just you can't even get a conversation with people like that. So me coming from the medical space, being able to talk to these people and understand, it's kind of like being part of their breed. I get it. I understand.
So they trust.
It's trust.
That's interesting, right? Not a lot of people, I think, have talked about that enough. But was there certain examples, I guess, when you were in Miami with meeting people that, in addition to, when I look at your model, and we've talked about this in the past as far as the rollout and the growth that's anticipated over the next 18 months, is that some of the important conversations I think that a lot of institutions will look for is people with the background in the medical field to really understand how to scale up certain companies within this space?
Yeah, you would hope that it's going to evolve that way, right? So, I mean, healthcare is very political. So it's one of those things, it's kind of whoever gets to the front of the political world usually typically wins in healthcare. And sometimes it's very unfortunate because it could be retired people of 20 years, right? So it doesn't do the best service for the person. That's why we're being so aggressive with this. And we have the lobbying efforts and all these things because people will ask all the time, who's your competition? Well, right now there's such a need and everybody's so new. I don't think we can necessarily say anybody's gold standard. I think that it's going to be who quickly evolves the best practice model, who's going to show their standard. So it's the babies kind of in the little leagues right now, and who's going to make it to the majors, right? So, I mean, I think that's going to be a big piece of it with, regulations and looking at those things. There were a lot of meetings that I did have where people did want to speak about strategic partnerships. So the neat thing about this company is when I go and I speak to whomever, it could be research, it could be real time. We have the ability to work with all of these people on different levels of. So we can make a strategic partnership through our veteran division or through our athletic division or through our adolescent division. And we're really just trying to infiltrate the system and be a part of it all. So a lot of those meetings were bits and pieces that will actually help to complement our divisions.
One thing I think that's a good point that you say this, and a couple other things is that there are a lot of companies out there that are supporting each other within this industry that I think is a great thing. So do you anticipate a lot of consolidation to happen in 2022?
2022, maybe. I do think conversations are going to start happening and coming up. I do think some consolidation will start, but I think more will probably be 2023. There's still a lot of smaller games that are getting into the, into the field. And I think that people are, once it starts becoming more popular, because you have to think, Shad, this is still like unknown territory to 99% of the world. So it's
I
a
know.
great time for investors to get in
I know.
because the research.
This is our world, but outside of that, there's still a lot of people that say, "Is this a real thing?" And it's just like, yeah, like I know
Mhm.
it's the word psychedelic. Obviously, people start to think from a recreational standpoint, but the more and more they start to learn the data that's being created, it's an eye opener, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's going to be neat is when they start comparing the antipsychotics that we have right now compared to psychedelics. And yeah, well, they each have positives, sure, but let's look at the side effects of each of them. And the side effects for psychedelics are going to be so much lower than the antipsychotics because we actually have real-time efforts that show exactly how they're working. We don't have that with antipsychotics.
And not have to take it every day.
Yeah.
Like that's the big thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You also reported earlier this month that you achieved sales growth in your clinical operations of 100%. Congrats for the 10-month period ending on October the 31st. Saying all this, and I know this is still a very small crowd that understands the industry that we're in. How much do you think people are starting to learn more and more about, that's a big growth year over year, but how much do you think this is becoming more well-known based on your clinics and what they provide?
Oh, it's still barely, I mean, the people that I've noticed that are understanding this more, those are the ones that are able to go out and actually effectively look at research and analyze research specifically. You have to understand that's not common population. I think common population is education levels on like an 8th grade level, so those individuals, they're just having everything that's kind of fed to them. So I think it's going to take time, and we're actually working. I just incorporated a nonprofit to help out with education aspects, education organizations.
Gotcha.
So, that's something that we really want to work on and help to lobby for that too. So I think 2022 is going to be a good year, not to, put a cap on the market by any means. 2022 is going to be a good year to see the growth in the infrastructure because it's a well-endured sprint. So the people that are sprinting right now that can't keep up that level of endurance, they're going to fail. So it's one of the things.
What do you think?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say it's one of the
I was
things
going to say
pace aggressively with this.
Yeah. Well, if you could have one takeaway in the year of 2021 represented for this industry, do you have an idea what it would be as far as the growth of the industry?
The biggest takeaway I would say would be something that's called like translational medicine. That's something new that we're doing, but I'm learning about it specifically with that. So translational medicine is, you've got researchers that know research.
Mm-hmm.
You've got other individuals, providers that actually do real care. You don't have the bridge to both. And that's what the psychedelic industry is doing right now, is they're trying to bridge it. So it's going to be those special individuals that can actually bridge research to real time and do it, before the next 15 years, which is traditional with the kind of the FDA process.
Right.
Do that to where we can actually have real impact. So I think the biggest thing would be for, with the psychedelic space, they're still learning on what they are or what, so it's going to be much more defined in 2022, I believe.
How much of an impact do you think the pandemic globally right now is a result on this industry being fast-tracked and developing so much quicker?
Oh, you got two things there. So it's being fast-tracked superficially, but then also it's slower growing, because of this. So because a lot of people don't want to get out of their house. They're afraid of COVID. They're afraid of the variants, all these things. So, it's just going to be, you've got two different heads here, but like the piece where we're going to see this psychedelic industry boom is once COVID starts going down. So if you look at a hurricane, say you and I are in a hurricane, we're surviving that hurricane right there. Once the hurricane's gone and we go out and we see what needs to be rebuilt, that's when we start feeling the effect because the survival mode's gone away. So once COVID, I'm expecting the flu vaccine, or not the flu season, and then COVID is going to increase again in the winter because it always does. But it's going to probably be another hard winter. And then hopefully in the spring, we'll start seeing numbers start to increase again. So it's a perfect time, for these businesses to be working on their infrastructure. And if they don't have it, again, that's going to separate the men from the boys kind of thing.
Well said. Speaking of infrastructure, you announced that you've acquired 60% interest in Revitaland Meditech. to expand your virtual clinics and increase access. So before we get into the details of the agreement, let's first, I guess, understand who Revitaland Medic Tech is. And are you starting to see, I guess, virtual clinics a big trend moving forward within the industry?
I do. I mean, there's going to be three parts to this, right? There's going to be real time physical people in the clinics. There's going to be the telemedicine, which a lot of people love and a lot of people hate. And then there's going to be, like Revitaland. So Revitaland is going to be part of the metaverse to where you can actually be in that land, as a person that's represented by an avatar. So, seeing that, it's hard.
Very
Chad.
cool.
It's hard for people to ask for help. Right. As a person. But if I'm able to ask for help with a representative, then that might be a way that I can ask for help more easily.
Right.
And then that way too, if there's not a revitalist in my neck of the woods, then I would be able to access help or, whatever else in the land that we're going to create. And it will still bring access to people as well. And it can be from the safety of their own homes. And they don't have to be vulnerable, feeling odd on the computer with someone. Because think about it, before Zoom, came about, everyone was awkward on videos. Now we're more used to it, but the common man's not.
Yeah, you and I are like pros in front of this on camera, aren't we?
Camera loves us.
That's fascinating, though, is it not? It's like I watched an interview recently with Ben Shapiro on Joe Rogan's show. And Ben was very blunt with Joe about, listen, dude, we grew up in two totally different generations. And this younger generation, and I know they deal with a lot of mental health issues, and the fact it's everywhere across the board, but what they're normal and what they're used to and what we're going to see lifestyle-wise moving forward is completely different from what we've ever experienced. But you bring up this whole metaverse topic and language. But that is a trend that is not going anywhere, and it's crazy how fast it's developing and going to change the overall outlook. Look at the Dallas Cowboys. They just went virtual this week with all their practices and stuff like that. Like, this is something that is not going anywhere anytime soon.
Right. And think about it, Chad. Think about the people that can't go anywhere because physically they're paralyzed or they're too old or they don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
I mean, we can bring this to them, right? There's just so many opportunities here. And I'm super excited about it. So, Revitalist, we're looking, yes, patient care at all times, with that. But then how do we help to, kind of subsidize the income with these clinics to where we can bring in additional funds, even not what we're even calculating on with the direct service lines. So, I think it's going to be exciting to see the revenue increase with the clinics for sure.
Well, I love the idea. You got an award as an Entrepreneur of the Year. You're thinking outside of the box, which is important. But most importantly, how do you maintain a business that keeps up with the times today, that fits the needs of what these consumers want? Evidently, you're doing that, right? So kudos to you. Let's keep in touch. And let's connect before the holiday season. And maybe we need to head down to Tennessee to see it right before Santa comes. How's that sound?
There you go, Shad. Sounds like a plan.
Listen, appreciate it. Congrats again for all the news last month, and I'll be in touch in a couple of weeks. Sound good?
All right, Chad. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.